there's a running debate in the polyamorous community about whether polyamorous people are born that way or whether it's a lifestyle choice. And there's actually a lot of mixed opinions on this from within the community itself, from people who identify as polyamorous individuals. They don't always even know how to answer that question. You get those of us who feel that from our earliest memories, we've always been capable of loving two people at the same time. We've always felt comfortable with that. And there's never been a time in our lives that we've ever questioned this as being how we are and what we need to do. And for others of us, it was more a process of sort of becoming aware of the fact that once we began to deal with our insecurities and sort of any kind of lingering prejudices that we had about having multiple lovers, we began to realize that we were actually more comfortable than we thought, and that it actually worked for us. I know that several of the group moderators are definitely, they would call themselves, inherently poly. They were born that way. I only realized that I was polyamorous about 5 or 6 years into my marriage. So, and it happened because I discovered that I was in love with a woman. So really a very challenging situation for any marriage to recover from, and yet a further 5 years after that, we're still together, everything's growing well. So it's something that I wouldn't want to define for other polyamorous people. It's not a settled thing either way. But society has a lot of very strong ideas about what relationships should and shouldn't be. And I actually think a lot of people are quietly dying desperately unhappy deaths in their relationships because of the fact that they're not really building their relationships from scratch with the things that they want their relationships to contain and to be. They're trying to conform to a societal ideal of what their relationships should be that doesn't really suit them at all. And I think if you look at the divorce rates historically, compared to the fact that gradually as society has started to open up and be more flexible about gender roles and the role of different partners in the relationship and the fact that we more often marry for love, the more that those relationship restrictions have started to fall away, the more stable our relationships have got. The divorce rate is in decline. So I think challenging societal norms about what relationships should look like is an essential part of ensuring that we actually have greater marriage stability in the future. All right, so as mentioned before, like the ethical non-monogamy as the umbrella term, there are certain types of polygamy that I would consider non-ethical non-monogamy. And this is typically the kind of thing that people really strongly object to. So you're looking at, religious cults where little girls are forced to marry a man, or, those kinds of experiences. That to me is very non-ethical non-monogamy. But some forms of polygamy are actually, in my opinion, ethical non-monogamy. If you're looking at 5 people who are fully adult, fully grown, fully consenting to having a fully polygamous marriage, I'm cool with that. No problem there. My concern does come in with the fact that we do live in a very patriarchal, very sexist society, and typically women don't have the same kind of rights and privileges and freedoms that they would have if there was more gender equality. And so quite often you'll see those kinds of elements creeping into polygamous relationships. And I think a lot of South Africa's discomfort with polygamy comes from that. Polyamory really challenges this issue head on, because we don't challenge the idea of having multiple partners. We challenge the idea of having inequality in relationships. Polyamory is gender equal, so both the male and the female members of the relationship are fully free to have relationships of their own. They don't have to conform to a rule of only one man gets multiple wives. And so to me, it is a much more equitable, much more fair way of running open relationships of this kind. And I would actually love to see how traditionally polygamous societies feel, you know, how their women folk feel about the idea of actually having the same freedoms as right as their men folk do. It's in our constitution. Gender discrimination is prohibited by our constitution. But you don't see that really percolating through the rest of our society. I've been in radio interviews where I've jokingly referred to polyamory as equal opportunity polygamy. And quite often the response I've gotten from, you know, callers and commenters was, you know, this is awesome. I wish, you know, that this was how it really worked, because, you know, I hate the fact that my boyfriend is constantly, you know, going on about other girls, but I don't get to date other people, you know, and that's so unfair. So I think there's a significant number of people out there that are openly questioning this idea already, but there's just nothing for them to sort of latch onto. There's no movement or knowledge about the fact that actually there are people out there who are already doing this. It's not new, it's not strange, you're not alone. When we have couples coming into polyamory that are facing a situation where not both of the parties are entirely on board yet, we try to work with the concept of education first. So whichever party of the two is, you know, ready to go and knows what they want and kind of just wants to go forward, needs to really dig deep in themselves and go, this person that I am with currently is not comfortable. They don't feel safe, they don't feel ready. If I am a good, honest, ethical person, I'm not going to push that. I'm not going to, you know, bully my partner or nag them or make their lives uncomfortable because they don't want to go through with this. It's only respectful and loving and caring to accommodate their discomfort and allow them an opportunity to really explore this idea without feeling like they have to make a decision about it soon. Obviously, at some point, if you strongly feel that you need to be in a polyamorous relationship and your partner is just an absolute no-go, it would be exactly the same as if a couple realized that, you know, the one partner wants to have a child and the other one doesn't want to have a child. You need to ask yourself, am I willing to compromise on this or not? And for some, the answer will be yes, and for some, the answer will be no. But ultimately, you need to be willing to do the work and sit and talk about it, read about all the different ways that people do polyamorous relationships, educate yourself about the reasons that people often don't feel comfortable starting polyamorous relationships, because those things very often help people work through those issues and come to a point where they actually are willing to go forward and actually do get into polyamorous relationships. I've got the overlarge majority of particularly couples who come into polyamory are usually sort of in this mixed state of comfort with polyamory. One partner has embraced it fully, they feel that it's the new religion for them, they're completely happy to go, but the other partner is sort of going, you know, I can see myself maybe doing this, but this is not gonna, you know, I'd like to just, you know, be cautious and sort of check this out a little more before I make a decision. And the rule is go as slow as the least comfortable member of the family. Slow yourself down to the pace of the person who has the most to lose or is the most afraid. And if you don't already know how to do really strong communication in your relationship, that should be the first thing you want to learn to do. The first thing you want to study is, how do I have a difficult conversation with my partner? How do I raise the topic of, you know, multiple relationships? And the resources online are immense. There's so many websites, so many places that you can go to look for details on how to do these things that if you really apply yourself, there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to find out how to do this properly. And protect yourself against the risk of maybe moving too fast and then losing somebody that you obviously already care for very deeply.